1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, my name is Ali, and welcome to my channel. For today's video we are going to be doing the second part of this video I previously did. I'll be tier ranking 2022 girl groups releases, but only in terms of their fashion. I'll be talking about the comebacks era's styling, and I'll tier rank each one of them. There are a lot of girl groups who had incredible outfits for their releases this year, and some that had not so great outfits. I'll also be mentioning some soloists because they are totally worth talking about. I already talked about some other releases, so if you are wondering where one specific release is, it may be in the first part. I of course can't be mentioning every single 2022 girl group release, but I really tried to include most of them. I'm sorry if I didn't mention your faves. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. Disclaimer. I am a fashion enthusiast and I studied fashion design in university, however, fashion is subjective. What I might think it's pretty, someone else might hate it, and it's completely okay. This isn't meant to be taken too seriously and I'm only doing it for fun. I'm only talking about the outfits, not the people wearing them. My thoughts on the clothing are just that, on the clothing, so I hope no one misunderstands it. The first one is God Jiho. This is for those eras that were absolute perfection in the fashion department. Like they are iconic, they didn't have a single flaw, and are completely unforgettable. Just like God Jiho. Then we have Slay. This is for all the eras that were good, absolutely nothing wrong with them. But they aren't God Jiho material either. There isn't that iconicness to them. Next is Weird but it works. This is for all the eras that had odd styling but it somehow worked with the concept in the song. Take for example Zimzalabeam. The styling is certainly out there but it worked. I don't know how many eras will qualify for this, but we shall see. Then we have Mid. This is for all the eras that had good styling. They weren't revolutionary, they don't necessarily have something clear that could have been fixed, but they also aren't that forgettable. They were just fine. Take this as like a middle, neutral tier. Next is Cute but forgettable. This is for all the eras that were fine, nothing too worrying about them, but they weren't impactful enough to be memorable. Then we have Throw It in the Trash. This is for all the eras that were bad. Maybe it had some nice elements, but the overall result just wasn't it. And lastly, we have Jail. This is for all the eras that were atrocious. Like these stylists truly hate the idols, and decided to take revenge on their clothing. This is the worst of the worst. Nothing savable about it. This era was quite short-lived, which I guess it's because of the song's controversy since this is supposed to be the title track. But all that aside, the fashion for this era is one of my favorites. The looks in this instance stuck to a simple color palette, with blacks, whites, grays, and dark blues. That could have been so boring, because they aren't eye-catching colors, but their stylists made the outfits so much better by choosing interesting pieces. I especially love this one look because of how good is the actual design of most of the pieces. Out of all their eras, this is by far my favorite when it comes to the outfits. For me this era is Slay, because it wasn't iconic, but it was so good. The main, and basically only concept in this era's styling was that each stage had a different color. She wore only monochromatic outfits and I fucking love how well the backup dancers' outfits matched hers. The clothing itself was pretty basic, but she always looked freaking gorgeous. There wasn't a single time where she wasn't looking stunning or that her outfit was kinda off. She of course is an experienced idol so she doesn't promote for long, but I wished we could have seen more outfits. This is Slay tier for sure. This group debuted seemingly out of nowhere, and when that happens I don't usually expect much for the fashion, especially if they come from a small company, but this era surprised me. Of course most of the outfits had active wear pieces in them, it would have been so bad if they didn't honestly, but it also could have been a bit boring. However, their stylists knew how to make sportswear chic. Obviously most of the outfits aren't comfortable enough for someone to work out in them, but that wasn't the goal. I loved how each stage had a signature color, it allowed for variety within the era's outfits. Some outfits had little to none sport touch to them, but they were also really good and it worked with the era. For me this is Slay because it wasn't iconic, but it was really good. I don't like this song at all, like it's awful to me, but fortunately the outfits weren't that bad. Their outfits looked like they were costumed made because of how perfectly they matched, and I appreciate that a lot. The best thing about their outfits is the tassels. Because of the choreography, the tassels being in every look was perfect because they added so much to the performance. The silhouette of the outfits wasn't anything revolutionary, just your standard girl group clothing, and actually in some instances I wasn't a big fan of them, but the tassels truly saved the looks. If you took the dangling effect out of all the outfits, then this era would have been trash. As a whole the outfits were fine, but not amazing. I think they did the most with what they had, but this belongs in cute but forgettable. Pink are the queens of doing mature classy concepts, and this one wasn't the exception, especially when it comes to the fashion. All of their outfits had this elegant touch to them that looked amazing. The girls wore lots of shiny fabrics and clothing pieces that had tons of rhinestones that shined amazingly with the stage lights. Their stylists truly know how to pick eye-catching pieces that look so nice while on stage and make the girls look gorgeous. This was the only instance where I didn't completely love the outfit because the gold fabric looks a bit cheap, but aside that, every single outfit was absolutely perfect. This era was iconic in every single way to me, so this belongs on Slay. Because of the loud song this era had, you could assume that the outfits followed that same obnoxious route, but they didn't. The outfits instead had more punk-ish elements, and tons of plaid print. Most of the outfits fit more into the Ring Ma Belle era, which we'll discuss later in the video, but not that much Gingamingayo. I think this era was perfect to do some creative and out there fashion. It would have been so amazing if their stylists had experimented a lot more than they did. I would have loved more prints, even print, mismatched outfits and just crazy things since the song is like that. The girls actually never look bad, their outfits are actually always fine, but not good enough for me, so this belongs on the mid-tier. This era had a retro song, but unfortunately the outfits didn't follow that same vibe. The fashion felt like your typical girl group look, just pleated skirts, crop tops, body harness, and just basic stuff. Some of the outfits felt a bit too 2016 to me, which isn't great since I always expect trendy outfits from K-pop artists. The girls never looked outright bad, but I think that retro-inspire outfits would have been so much better, maybe something like Mago by G-Friend. Overall the outfits weren't awful but also not memorable in the sightless, so it's totally cute but forgettable for me. I have mixed feelings when it comes to this era's fashion since there are some looks that I really love, but there are some other that I don't. The looks where the girls wore the sparkly and mismatched dressed are the worst for me. Some of those dresses are actually quite pretty, but most of them are awful and just so unflattering. Cherry Bullet stylists always loves to give some amazing outfits and some awful outfits in the same era, like it's nothing new. And usually in almost every instance there's a girls that's done so dirty. The styling for this era could have been so much better, and it's such a shame that after an over year-long hiatus the girls got this. I did like some looks, but there were most that I disliked that I liked, so I have to put this in the throw in the trash tier. This era sucked in many ways, however, the fashion wasn't that bad. I like the outfits that had this slight extraterrestrial vibe to them, which fit really well with the comebacks concept. I especially liked the outfits that had an earthy toned color palette. But unfortunately we also got some not so great outfits. Some of the looks had this casual vibe to them that didn't look bad, but it also didn't match the concept. Some girls also got done kinda of dirty at times, like what the fuck is this? Their other eras' fashion have been really nice, but I think that because they changed concepts, the styling also had to be different and maybe their stylists didn't know what exactly to do. It seems like they had no clear idea for the outfits, and just threw together random pieces hoping it looked good, but it didn't. The styling as a whole wasn't horrendous, but it also could have been better, so much better, so it's throw it in the trash for me. This era had a retro sound, so to match the vibes, most of their outfits had sequins and shiny fabrics in most of their looks. The overall vibe of the era reminds me of the disco era, which matches the song perfectly, but it wasn't anything too explicit like in JYP's When We Disco. Although I think that a tiny bit more of the disco influence would have been perfect. From what I've seen of Brave girls in the recent years, their stylists do a great job styling the girls for the most part, and this case wasn't the exception. Some outfits might have felt a bit random in this era, but it looked nice when all the girls were together. The fashion in this instance wasn't anything outstanding, but it wasn't bad by any means, so the middle tier is perfect for me. This era mixed 1950s elements with some more modern ones. I absolutely love this old school cabaret-inspired look. They were perfect from head to toe, and I wished more of the looks in this era followed that same vibe. We had some instances with more modern-inspired outfits, which also worked well with the era perfectly. However, we also got some more costumey looks that were kinda bad. Like what is this? The gold fabric is awful, and they look like magician assistants. And what is this? They look like Pennywise. This was amazing in some aspects, and terrible in others unfortunately. I'll have to say that this was mid, because it isn't horrible but it also isn't amazing. This solo debut was okay in terms of fashion. I especially loved the Hanbo-inspired looks, they were so amazing and Yuju just looked gorgeous. But aside those, most of her outfits were so simple, to the point of almost being boring. Her pieces were basic and maybe with a lot more of accessories the outfits would have turned out much better, but they didn't. There wasn't really a time where she looked bad, although I don't like this red outfit, but as a whole she actually looked great. However, just like the song, this era fashion-wise unfortunately was cute but extremely forgettable. She didn't have many stages with this era, but the ones she had were really similar. Almost all of her looks included a crop top, a cropped jacket, and some high-waisted wide-leg pants. The standout look in this era is this one, it's the most memorable one and the top simulates a straitjacket which is really on theme with the concept. The fashion in this instance wasn't bad, but it also wasn't amazing. I think it would have helped if we had more outfits within the era, but it is what it is. For me this is mid. This era had a very classy vibe in every aspect, but definitely in the fashion. Most of the outfits the girls wore were cocktail dresses that changed colors with every stage. Their stylists definitely know what works for each girl, and although I didn't love every single outfit choice, I also don't think the girls were done dirty at any times. For sure the thing that stood out the most to me from this era was the fact that all the girls wore 5-inch heels in some performances. In the 4th gen is really rare to see female idols wearing stiletto heels because of how freaking uncomfortable they are, but they made it work which is honestly admirable. This wasn't iconic level for me, but it's really amazing so slay it is. The fashion the girls wore this era was really basic, mostly just what the girl group styling is usually like these days but not as good. They didn't have a clear concept behind the outfits aside giving each stage a different color, and there wasn't any look that stood out to me. Some outfits were nice, but some other felt so random and out of place, like what at this Tool look. I don't think the girls looked bad, but they also didn't look amazing. For me this era was so forgettable to the point that I had to re-watch the stages multiple times because I instantly forgot what the outfits looked like. By now you should already know where this belongs. Of course, cute but forgettable. This is another instance of an era that had your stereotypical girl group outfit, but I think it looked great. We of course got the classics pleated skirts, crop tops, and blouses, but it worked so well with the song's concept. I especially loved the looks where the girls wore flowy silhouettes, because the clothing pieces moved so well while the girls were dancing. Most of the outfits had a pastel color palette which worked perfectly with the concept. The group also comes from a small company and I'm sure they don't have a huge budget for the clothing, so the fact that the girls always looked so pretty just shows that you don't need to spend insane amounts of money in designer pieces to look great. This of course wasn't iconic, but they always looked amazing so slay it is. Blackpink's era are usually quite messy when it comes to the fashion, and this was the same. All the looks when they come together don't make sense because there isn't a clear idea behind. The girls' outfits in the same stage usually also don't make sense at all, and each girl's is just wearing something that barely matches the rest. Blackpink always have this issue and I just hate how bad their latest comebacks have been in terms of styling. In the past each era had a clear concept, but lately their styling team just seems lost. We also didn't get many stages with this era, and the best outfits were actually in the jacket shoot and not in the performances, which is also something Blackpink loves to do. They also did the girls dirty in some instances, like who thought it was a good idea to give this outfits to Jisoo, like it's so ugly. This for me is throw it in the trash because there isn't anything worth saving. This era had a very feminine vibe to it, with Miyeon looking super pretty in every single stage. All the outfits were in a brighter color palette that worked wonderful with the spring season that was happening when this song was released. Most of the outfits had a flowy silhouette and I wished the choreography wasn't so simple because it could have looked so wonderful with the movement of the clothing pieces. Her stylists definitely understand what works for her, and know how to make her stand out in the best way possible. I also loved how she got to show another side that she hadn't shown before on G-Idol. This isn't God Jiho tier but it is Slay tier. This era had a clear school theme, so it isn't a surprise that most of the outfits followed a school uniform silhouette. The girls had a lot of performances during this era, so of course it's hard to plan out so many outfits for multiple members, however, their stylists did a really good job. I appreciate so much that all the school uniform looks weren't exactly the same but in different colors, they changed silhouettes and some clothing pieces here and there, which just makes everything more visually entertaining. The girls also wore multiple casual outfits in a dark color palette, and that also made sense with the concept, but sometimes those outfits were a bit off and kinda ugly. As a whole I don't think this was a bad era at all, but it also wasn't iconic, so it's the middle tier for me. For the performance outfits, this era had a really distinct vibe to the looks. The silhouette of the outfits was mostly flowy with lots of beachy and summery vibes. She wore lots of flowy mini dresses and two-piece sets, lots of floral prints, and mostly a light color palette. I think that for the most part she looked great, but I also think that sometimes the outfits were balancing the line between fitting the aesthetic and being ugly. I also completely hate these shoes she wore for most of the performances, like why not give her some pretty flat sandals instead? Like the dancers' shoes were better than hers. The super long red hair was so eye-catching and it almost worked as an accessory, and to be honest I just wonder how she managed to have those extensions for so long, like the headaches she must have had from the weight. I really wish that the MV outfits that followed different decades in different places around the world would have made an appearance in some performances, but I also understand that it wouldn't have made any sense. Like just picture Sunmi dancing in this look with the huge fans, it wouldn't have looked cohesive. This is slay tier. This era had a darker theme in every aspect, so of course the outfits followed the same vibe. She unfortunately promoted the song 1 week so we didn't get much outfits, although the ones we got were pretty great. She did wear a few more for the jacket shoot, and I would have loved to see them on stage. In some of her outfits she had some of spider motifs because of the concept, and I really like how they brought that from the MV into the outfits. This one outfit is my personal favorite because of all the chains and silver accessories. I also like that they didn't stick to just black with all the outfits and threw some color here and there. This era was so good styling wise, and if we had a bit more of outfits I would put it in God Jiho, but because we don't I'll put it in Slay. Her solo debut had a very spring vibe to it, so it made total sense for the outfits to have a bright color palette. She wore mostly flowy silhouettes that moved wonderfully while she danced, she wore multiple looks with floral print, and as a whole all of her outfits looked very cohesive. I do think that at times the dress choices weren't the best, like I don't love this blue look, but overall she looked pretty good. I like the fact that their stylists understand that hair can work as an accessory. For almost every single stage she had a different hairstyle with different hair accessories that matched the outfit, but I especially loved the bows. For me there wasn't anything particularly that stood out to me, and although she did look great I have to say that this is cute but forgettable. This era had a distinct type of styling that matched really well with the song. Most of the outfits were in darker color palettes with lots of form-fitting pieces. The girls looked amazing every single time, and there are just very specific instances where I didn't like one clothing item, but that doesn't mean I don't like the overall outfit. Their stylists know how to take advantage from what they had. The clothing pieces itself aren't that groundbreaking, but it's the use of accessories and layering that make the outfits as great as they are. Take for example this one look. All of the girls are wearing black outfits, but the harnesses and chains make everything much more interesting. The stylists clearly know what works for each member and it shows. The girls also wore a lot of outfits, and each one of them can stand tall compared to the rest. This for me is totally God Jiho material, and it's actually the first entry in this tier. Also, how sad it's that this was their last release, I'll miss them so freaking much. Most of the outfits in this era followed that over-accessorized Y2K vibe that has been very popular these days. I personally really enjoyed that type of styling, although I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's kinda odd and really out there, but it works perfectly with the quirky sound the song has. Not all the outfits followed that same vibe, and they did wear some more tamed ones, but there were still clear unique elements in them. For a while now Red Velvet stylists have been killing the fashion game, and this era isn't an exception. I love how distinct they make each era's styling, to the point that from looking at a photo of them you can tell where is from just by the outfits. In this instance I don't think there was a single time any one of the girls looked bad, and for me this was perfect in every aspect, so it's God Jiho for me. This era felt messy styling wise. This was a summer comeback so the denim outfits make total sense, but I don't get why her stylists gave her so many outfits with tulle. It just doesn't fit the vibe at all. She also wore some more sporty outfits that kinda matched the vibe, but weren't that pretty either. The few outfits that I actually think were okay, just were too simple to almost being boring, like give her some accessories. It seemed like her styling team didn't have a clear idea of what this era was going to look like and just threw random clothing pieces hoping something would land. The song is actually really good, but I can enjoy most of the stages because of how bad her outfits are. I just really hope her stylists do a better job next time, because her debut era actually had some pretty nice looks. This for me is unfortunately jail because there isn't anything I like. This era followed the same quirky vibe her debut era had. Each stage had a completely different outfit with a completely different concept, but it all worked perfectly with the song, and I love how in almost every performance she used a flip phone as a phone. She wore lots of outfits during this era, and I'm pretty sure she didn't repeat a single one, which is honestly impressive. I didn't love every single one of them, but I also don't think there was an instance where she looked bad or that the outfit was atrocious. Whoever does her hair also needs to be praised because I love how they gave her different hairstyles and hair accessories for every stage, and that just adds so much to the final look. This is slay tier for me. This era marked the return of Girls' Generation as a whole group, but unfortunately the outfits didn't live up to the expectations I had for his release. There isn't any memorable in this era for me, and it also doesn't help how few outfits we got. There's this one that's giving sailor vibes, and this two ones that give party vibes. There isn't any cohesiveness between the three of them, but once again there aren't many looks to do an overall view. I don't think any of the girls look bad, but there also isn't anything memorable about this era, so for me this goes in cute but forgettable. This era gave us a lot of outfits, and there were multiple concepts going on within the performance looks. We have this one where each girl has a representative color. It looks really good and the outfits are genuinely pretty, but I hate that Liz and Gal's colors are basically the same. We also have these monochromatic outfits that followed the same silhouette with the furry accents, which I hate, and specifically these denim ones are so hideous. We also got a few outfits that had sequins in them. They looked great with the stage lights, but at times one of the girls got done dirty. There were a variety of outfits, and there are definitely memorable instances in this era, however there are also multiple things I didn't love about the outfits, so for me this belongs in the middle tier. This era has me a bit conflicted since I like some things and dislike some others. She wore some amazing outfits, like these mini dresses look so good on her, and I especially love the blue ones since it fits the whole theme of the comeback. This black ones are also really nice, and most of the times she looked gorgeous. But we also got these outfits with feathers and tulle that are just plain awful. I don't like the silhouette of them, it's just so bad, and just ugly. Her stylists always think that by putting her in an eye-catching dress is enough, but it isn't. I want more accessories, better clothing choices and just better styling as a whole. Nxde is gorgeous and her music is good, but her outfits have always been so bad, and they just keep getting worse with each release. This of course belongs in throw it in the trash. The main focus in Hyun's performances isn't the outfits, she can just carry everything by herself, but that doesn't mean her outfits have to be so simple. She obviously doesn't look bad, but some black leggings and a black crop top is just way too simple for a performance in my opinion. She can add some sequins or more accessories so even if the outfits are simple, it doesn't look boring. I know that she is her own CEO, so maybe their stylists don't have a crazy budget, but you can do so much better than this. This is extremely forgettable, so of course it goes in this tier. The final ranking is like this. In the God Jiho tier we have Bandits Venom and Red Velvet's Birthday. In the Slay tier we have New Jeans Cookie, Solar's Honey, Haiky's Athletic Girl, A Pink's Dilemma, Oh My Girl's Real Love, ILY1's Love in Bloom, Miyeon's Drive, Sunmi's Heartburn, Hyo's Deep, and Yina's Smartphone. In the Weird But It Works tier we actually have nothing, which doesn't surprise me since it's for really unique styling. In the mid tier we have Billy's Gingamingayo, Brave Girl's Thank You, G-Idol's Nude, Moonbyul's Lunatic, Classy's Shut Down, and Ive's After Like. In the cute but forgettable tier we have Nature's Rica Rica, Rocket Punch's Chiquita, Yuju's Play, Purple Kiss Memem, Yaren's Aria, Girls' Generation's Forever One, and Hyun's Layin Low. In the Throw It in the Trash tier we have Cherry Bullet's Love in Space, Weekly's Ven Para, Blackpink's Shut Down, and Nxde's Glitch. And last, in the Jail tier we only have Yuri's Love Shish. That was everything for the video. I wanted to include as most releases as possible in this video, but there's still a bunch I want to talk about so I could definitely make a part 3 if you're interested. If you haven't you can check part 1 in my channel. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my choices, and what was your favorite styling era from 2022. If you want to see more of me, I do K-pop fashion videos mixed with some other stuff here and there, so you can subscribe to my channel if you want to. Don't forget to like the video if you did, and thanks for watching. Bye.